we're going to talk about Bigfoot first, right? So,
Sure.
Yeah, let us know. Did you play the music? Do we do the music?
oh, I should do the music, huh?
Well, let's do the music.
Let's do the music. I have to do the music. Gotta find the music. Where's the music? There's the music, I think. Yeah, there it is.
It's like a bluesy dream going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Todd, you let us know if you...
We've been recording for the last 10 minutes.
Oh, geez, I knew that.
Right before,
man.
before you asked me what Rule 34 was.
I knew we were recording. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Our Town Podcast. Extraordinaire. Coming to you from the Renton Civic Theatre. I lost my mind there for a second. In beautiful, beautiful downtown Renton, where it is sunny. Renton.
You're going to say it. You got to say it right. Renton. There's no T in the word Renton. We say it without the T.
Without the T. Yes. I'm more sophisticated than that, though. So,
well, you're not from Renton, then.
Not originally, no. So here we are. This is the Tinfoil Hat Party Part 2. Part 2. And we do have the tinfoil hats, although they're kind of warm out, so I don't think we'll probably wear them today.
We don't need to wear those.
And to my right is Cousin Todd on the big board.
And those.
Directly in front of me is our special guest once again, Mr. Bailey Bressler. And on the phone from Des Moines, Iowa, is the mayor himself, Mr. Mike.
What's going on, Mike?
Why, hello. Yes, through the ether. You're speaking.
Yes.
Type of modern miracle, yes. Yeah, and we're on Interstate 80 right now. It is astounding that all of this can happen at once.
It's amazing. It's all that alien technology that they passed on to us, right? Microchips and stuff.
Microprocessors. Yeah. Velcro.
Yeah. So for part 2, so last week we did the tinfoil part 1, tinfoil hat party, and we just basically scratched the surface and talked about all kinds of different conspiracy theories. We thought it'd be a good idea just to kind of narrow it down and talk about 3. So tonight I think we're talking about Bigfoot, we're talking about aliens and alien encounters, and the president himself, John F. Kennedy, who is probably still sitting on a beach in Jamaica somewhere, sipping Mai Tais or something.
He's got a condo in Vegas with Tupac and Biggie.
Yeah, and Elvis. Don't forget Elvis.
Oh, Elvis is dead by now. I mean, otherwise he'd be in his late 90s, right?
Well, JFK would be 100 and...
Yeah, he was born in 1914.
That's right. We should definitely talk about the QAnon JFK thing, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he was coming back.
That's John Jr. though.
No, they were talking about both senior and junior.
Back,
initially it was senior they were talking about, but then it was no, he would be 100-something years old. So maybe it was JFK Jr.
Adrenochrome keeps you young, remember?
Yeah.
It pickles your insides and keeps you up. And keeps you from aging.
Yeah.
But
speaking of Elvis, I watched a show on Netflix called Agent Elvis. Has anybody seen this?
I started to, but fell asleep because it was 3 a.m. when I started watching it.
I think it's kind of funny. It's got a lot of big names associated with it. Priscilla Presley actually is one of the executive producers. She created the show. Priscilla did.
Of course she did.
But yeah, all right. Matthew McConaughey is the voice of Elvis. Yeah. Don Cheadle is the commander of the TCB, which is the Central Bureau. Okay. But that's where Elvis came up with TCB. It's got Mousakis. What's his name? Plays Howard Hughes, who's their secret scientist that makes all their gadgets and stuff, and he's just awesomely insane. But it's actually kind of a funny show. It's not 10 out of 10, but I'd give it a solid 7.5, 8 out of 10.
I'm definitely going to try and rewatching it because, like I said, I don't know how far I got into episode 1, but I fell asleep. So I'm not a huge Elvis guy, so maybe that was why. But
yeah, and it's funny because he kind of makes fun of himself, and Elvis is kind of he's old school. He's more conservative. He doesn't like the hippies and the psychedelic stuff.
Yeah,
there's a whole episode where they're playing the Doors music. Jim Morrison keeps coming on, and he's getting pissed because it's all about Jim Morrison and and his thing. But
there's actually a documentary, and I believe it's on Tubi TV. It's either Tubi or it's on Pluto. Either way, it's on one of the free streaming sites, and it's called Elvis is Alive, and it's like a mockumentary. They have a guy who sounds just like Elvis, but you never see his face.
Yeah.
And basically talks about how he became a secret agent for the CIA and shit. And how...
Yeah. And that's kind of the way this follows. And it's got Johnny Knoxville's one of his sidekicks, and he's got this chimpanzee called Scatter that just does mass quantities of friggin' any kind of drug you can get your hands on. He likes to shoot people in the face and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of funny.
That monk, I do remember that much of the show. He strikes me as a cross between Bubbles and Clyde from
the
Every Which Way But
Every
Loose.
Which Way But Loose. Yeah. Anyway, talking about big hairy dudes, let's talk about Bigfoot, the other big hairy superstar out there.
Yes. Who may or may not gyrate with his groin.
I want to think he does.
I think he probably does when he's getting busy. So
I want to think he does. So for me, every species, one thing, it's like their life's mission is to procreate, right? No matter how small the organism or how large the organism, procreation is the name of the game.
Food and sex, essentially.
Food and sex. Yeah. Survive and procreate. So I would think that a species that was out in the woods for so long that's sort of hidden would have been able to procreate enough that we would have a lot more evidence out there in the backwoods.
This is assuming that they're not like they're not smarter than the average forest animal. You know, they know to keep themselves hidden. They know that like it's better to probably come out at night when people aren't around. They don't go anywhere near roads. They don't go around people, period. You know, and I don't know. I tend to think that there's probably something out there. The fact that everyone has a smartphone and has a camera and stuff, you'd think someone would catch something on camera that doesn't look like somebody in a
gorilla mask,
spirit Halloween costume, you know. But and I've seen video that, like, of course they're always like miles away and they're kind of pixelated or blurry. It's like, of course they're like 3 miles away, and your 10 times zoom doesn't really do any justice on it when it's zoomed in from that far away. It just looks pixelated or blurry. So I've seen lots of video that could have been real. What was that, Mike?
I mean, because they're trying to avoid human contact.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's right. If that's the line of reasoning, then that makes sense, right? It's like,
yeah, and I think...
I don't know. And remember, a lot of species slowly die out. Not all extinctions are quick. So if they were kind of on the downside, say after the big thaw, after the ice ages, so 25,000 to 10,000 years ago or whatever, maybe their species just slowly started to die off. They weren't getting nutrients that they needed, or they weren't losing territory to humanity or whatever else, right? So, I don't know. I can kind of go with that idea as well. If there's just so few of them, if there's 200 of them worldwide, we're not going to see them.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of territory to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of acres where no human being has ever set foot ever.
Well, and that also brings up a point too, because sometimes we should probably look at this through the lens of like science a little bit. And when we're theorizing, an animal that lives here on Earth, and when we think of like Bigfoot or Sasquatch, we think of it as it would probably be classified as one of the great apes, and one of the best
Gigantopithecus.
Yeah, Gigantopithecus, or we could look at other contemporary species of great apes, and how they live in the wild. Like orangutans are fairly solitary creatures that live in the jungles of Indonesia, and then you have how are these groups of Sasquatch or Bigfoot? How do you think that they're orienting themselves, and how do they organize in their communities? Do you think that I would think that they were solitary creatures if they exist.
Like bears.
Bears, maybe they have, they come together once in a while to mate, and, maybe it's like orangutans, right? The female will mate, and then they raise the babies, and the babies go off and go make a family of their own.
Yeah.
That would probably be the best.
I mean, it makes sense that they're solitary animals, because the last time I was at the Woodland Park Zoo, we saw the orangutans, and they were hiding under burlap sacks because there was no place else for them to hide. They just put a bag over their head and say, "Yeah, I can't see them, so they can't see me."
Right. So, and Gigantopithecus's closest modern relative is the orangutan.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. That makes sense then.
Yeah. But
So,
then, I mean, yeah, and if it even, I don't know, because you never hear about them being, having tools or clothing or anything like that. So maybe a great ape is a good similar, right? Or even,
And I think
just a reasonable theory, right?
yeah,
If you would think a hominid, just Neanderthal, and et cetera, they used tools, right? And made artwork and had a little more cohesive civilization, air quotes, right? So, and mining, they did mining and stuff like that. So, other hominids probably had, certain rituals and stuff like that. We don't have necessarily evidence of Bigfoot ritual, right? Unless all the weird shit that was, I don't know, maybe.
yeah. I also think that Bigfoot isn't just isolated to the Pacific Northwest. It's all over the place, and they have different names for it. It's not isn't it like what was it? Jersey Devil. Isn't that like an ape type creature?
Was that an ape type creature?
No, I'm
bat person.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was a flying creature. I think you're thinking of there's another thing.
There's one on the East Coast. I want to say there's skunk ape. Wasn't that what it was called?
Yeah, maybe.
Was that Florida?
But we call it Sasquatch up here. Bigfoot is more like a Kentucky, Tennessee term?
Bigfoot was just that's what they called him back in whenever that original video came out. But Sasquatch is the indigenous people name for it.
Yeah.
The Americanized English version of the indigenous name for the creature.
Well, they've got the Yeti in
the
the Himalayas.
Yeah. I think they're all related. I think we're just seeing different versions of it based on the area that it lives.
That could be, because there is no great ape in North America, right?
No,
at all.
Yeah, we don't really have any apes, or we don't have any. We don't really have any primaries primates in North America.
Yeah,
that's all Central and South America.
Yeah.
Right.
Does Central have primates? Well, they have monkeys, right?
Yeah, like howling monkeys.
That could also be a weather thing. Remember, because we had glaciers going down all the way to just above Arizona, not that long.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but there's so much unexplored territory, and sparsely populated, not well traveled. In like the Hoh rainforest, or look up to Alaska even.
So we're saying it could be likely that as man crossed the Bering Sea on the ice bridge, orangutans might have followed them across, and maybe even did a little evolving.
Right. Well, they could have. Yeah, I mean that, or like before, like the continents moved or whatever.
Yeah.
They could have been spread out a little bit more, because
I don't think there were mammals at that point. So.
Oh, good point. But yeah, the land bridge between.
How did primates get down to Central and South America? right? Did they come all the way over the bridge?
On a banana boat.
Or they swam across from Africa?
At least they swam.
I really
they
don't
walked or they swam. Or a combination of the two.
Isn't it true that only monkeys in South America have prehensile tails?
I mean, they're there. So
I think so.
yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know if there's any great apes in Latin America or not. But,
no,
I don't know.
Just
none that we know of. No great apes that we know of in South America.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a grape ape here in the United States, but that's not the same thing.
There's always grape ape on.
Grape ape.
There's Grimace.
He's not really.
Well, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Grimace is a melted Hershey's Kiss.
Yeah, purple.
Or he's a giant purple dinosaur turd.
Yeah, he's
something Barney shit out.
The Grimace. That's why he got that name, because that's the face that Barney makes when he takes a dump.
So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to go around the table and the phone and take a vote on who believes Bigfoot could actually be an existing creature. So Mike, you're on the phone. Why don't you go first? Is Bigfoot have a possibility of being real?
Oh yeah. Well, if you're throwing the key word there is possibility.
All right, let me rephrase it. Is Bigfoot real?
I would say possibly.
Todd, what do you say?
I think I like to believe it is. I like to think that it is a real thing, and we just haven't been able to get close enough to them, because, like I said, I think they're more aware of their surroundings than because they're more animal than humanoid, so they're aware that people are nearby, so they're like, fuck that, I'm out of here. So. And, someone's sawing in the background.
Yeah. Bailey had a confused look for those listening, and it's because we're in a working theater here at the Renton Civic Theatre, and they are building the set for their next show, which starts in a couple of weeks. So go to the website,
right on.
rentoncivictheatre.org, and take a look at the upcoming calendar.
Yeah.
And by the way, Saturday, there's a big comedy show here.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this on Friday morning,
come to Renton tomorrow morning.
Come tomorrow
evening, rather.
And come check it out. A great lineup of comedians.
Headlined by Kermit Apio.
Which one is it?
Kermit Apio.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's great.
Yeah, he's a fantastic comedian, and there's and of course I'm drawing a blank on their names. Let me pull it up on the internet.
No worries, Bailey. What about you? Is Bigfoot a real creature out there somewhere, shitting in the woods, eating berries? He's got to be a vegetarian too, though, right?
I'm going to be the one that says probably no. However, I think that it's very likely that it's something that lived in our very recent past.
Okay.
And that's why we still hear so many legends.
Last 150 years.
I'm thinking kind of more along the range of like Ice Age, and because we had woolly mammoths that were living on Wrangel Island up until about 3,500 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm thinking in the last up to 10,000 years, just because we get so many of these legends and stories about Sasquatch and the Yeti, and so I definitely think that it was very possible that there was something like that, and it's just passed down in the oral tradition.
Okay, I got the names of the comedians that are going to be here on Saturday. Headlined by Kermit Apio, featuring Amos Mack, funny guy, and special guest Justin Hayes. This dude will make your side split. He is so funny. And of course, hosted by Jamal Harrington, my co-host on my other podcast.
Nice.
Sweet. I'll have to check it out.
Solid.
Yeah, good. I'll look to see you there. I'll be there.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go no. I think that there's the possibility that, like Bailey was saying, hundreds of years ago, that somebody saw something here on this continent and thought, "Oh, that's a Bigfoot." Look at the size of those feet, for Christ's sakes. But nowadays, I just don't think it's that it's likely.
Now, let me ask you, why do you guys both think that it's not possible? Well, just because,
Well, possible, yes. I mean, I can't prove a negative, right? Hard to do.
So why do you say no then?
Because I don't think it's likely. I just think that we would have had better evidence of it somewhere. We would have found a carcass. We would have found a bone. We would have found a femur bone.
What about like the giant squid? That was thought to be like not real.
Right. But they found it, so
yeah.
But they haven't found any.
But like we're saying is like if we somehow if we find the Sasquatch femur bone, like okay, it exists. We were wrong.
There's nothing.
I'm okay with saying that I could be wrong.
There's no evidence that I've seen that could possibly prove it right, other than grainy footage of some guy in a gorilla suit running through the woods, kind of thing.
Well, I have heard stories of like in the Pacific Northwest that near the Canadian border there is a indigenous tribe that does kind of a not coming of age, a rite of passage for the young males in their tribe, that they go out and live in the woods for a year. And what?
That's hardcore.
Yeah, they teenager who lives in the woods for a year.
I think we should do that in our own society, but
it's kind of a dream come true for parents.
What age can we send them out?
Make our 17 and 18-year-olds do the Appalachian Trail.
Well, they have game shows for that kind of shit right now, don't they? Isn't that Survivor?
Yeah. What do you mean I can't take my phone?
What would I do without TikTok?
But yeah, they were saying that the sightings people were having were from people living in the woods for a year, and they don't have they don't take anything with them.
Yeah.
So they're living off the land.
They ate the wrong kind of mushrooms.
They're not cutting their hair. They're not shaving. They're not doing any of that stuff. So they do kind of get hairy looking. And
sure.
Hair gets all matted, and so that's a possibility as to what people are seeing in the Pacific Northwest. I can't say anything for the rest of the world where they are seeing giant hairy creatures, but I still think it's a possibility. I'd like to believe it is real, but again, like you said, without proof, there's really no way of. I mean,
and don't get me wrong. Like, I would love for there to be a whole other species of great apes that are still roaming this earth, because that would be our distant cousin. We're running out of them every day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, everything I've seen kind of rings towards Piltdown Man, right? I mean, just this stuff that people come up with that
Pill what?
It's a famous fake.
Would you say though?
Piltdown.
What is that?
It's a famous case where somebody dug up supposedly an early human ancestor, but it turned out to be like a composite of different bones and stuff. Big fakey thing that was proved. But this was in like the late 1800s, something like that, mid 1800s in England. Look at my discovery kind of thing.
Well, it's like they have like a monk sanctuary out in I think it's wherever Yetis are found. They have a skull cap of a Yeti on display. And I was watching one of those shows where they're trying to
discover what it is,
see if there's a way they could get like a DNA test of the scalp, and they weren't allowed to even touch it. It had all they could do was do like a 3D scan of it, but that isn't enough to really see what it is.
Yeah. In Japan, there was this, in a Japanese temple, there was a mermaid that people claimed was a real mermaid.
The Fiji mermaid?
Kind of like that, but just a small little mermaid. And the monks there allowed scientists to take it with them and complete like carbon dating and DNA samples and stuff like that. And they figured out that, the stuff is old, but it's like the claws were made out of creatine. The skull was, I think, like a seal skull or something. Most of the fishy half was like some kind of leather and cotton, and it was put together with sticks and stuff because they were able to X-ray it and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Just, like another...
The Fiji mermaid has been proven to be just like half monkey and half fish.
There's a lot of monkey and fish parts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
But that was also, I think, wasn't that like Barnum and Bailey, they did the Fiji mermaid?
Oh, was it? Yeah, probably.
Some sideshow attraction.
Sideshow attraction, yeah.
Well, Barnum was all about the sideshow stuff, right? Yeah.
Sure, and hallelujah. Sideshow stuff is wonderful, and I hope that doesn't go away. We
some
humans
cool
still
stuff.
like to be, like I go to illusionists and magic shows, right? Because I love to be dazzled. There's nothing wrong with that as long as we don't start a religious it.
Yeah, and as long as you're not exploiting somebody for it, but
yeah. Well,
that's what
if someone's involved, if someone was involved with like a sideshow, they better get paid well for them.
Yeah. All right,
Mr. Lipto.
Huh?
Mr. Lipto, do you guys remember the Jim Rose sideshow?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw them at Ozfest '99.
Yeah, gnarly stuff.
Yeah.
Gnarly stuff.
Pounding nails into his face and stuff. Yeah.
Well, as Todd mentioned earlier, Bigfoot is probably an alien. So let's segue over to aliens.
That's one of the theories, anyway.
Should we start with the vote?
I definitely believe that aliens are real and that we've been visited for sure.
Okay. What about you, Mike?
I mean, that's one of those things where the concrete proof, like you're saying, is either suppressed by the powers that be or just not found yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, existence is vast as fuck. And Earth would have, a lot of the necessary things for life, right? So I could see another, either space or time or whatever traveling species looking for some other ingredients. But I also think that once you're advanced enough, you don't need anything else. You can just become independent of everything, right? So, I don't know.
How crazy would it be, though, if it was proved that, like, if the government had covered something up, like, what was that special they had 20 years ago?
Oh, the alien autopsy?
Alien autopsy. Wouldn't it be crazy if it was proved that we had visitors from space and they came down in 1954 and they gave us the microchip or something like that?
They let us play around with their gear.
People freak the fuck out.
I think people would freak out if they knew. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there would be societal upheaval.
One of the reasons why I think a lot of the conspiracies happen is because people believe that these things are real and they've seen things or they've heard things and whatever else, and then the government's like, yeah, no, we don't want to say anything because we don't want people to panic because large groups of people are stupid, and they will panic.
Yeah,
I mean, people freaked out about toilet paper 2 years ago. So
it's very tenuous, right? It's like the thin blue line is thin as fuck, right? And once people decide that the government is not actually in charge or is not actually depowered over them, everything changes. That dynamic, that psychological dynamic, cannot be overstated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that would also throw religion, right? Curveball. I don't think it would get rid of religion, but it would throw a massive curveball at it. Right?
Yeah, they'd have to do some serious rewrites.
Well, and to go along with your point, Mike, it's like, religion, the whole point of it is to control people and to organize society.
Well.
That's the atheist to me speaking there.
Well, what about you, Bailey?
This is a family program, Bailey.
Here I am challenging the power of God.
Are aliens real for you?
Yeah, of course. I can't prove that they visited us, and I can't prove that any of that happened, like they say that it did. However, I 100% believe that we did find extinct life on Mars. They found evidence of single-celled or simple life on the planet, and they had, in the distant past, Mars had the conditions for life. With that being said, like what everybody else has said, you know, the universe is so vast, it's ever expanding.
Yeah.
There's an infinite number of
the mathematical possibilities.
And then we get into the whole, you know, theories about, you know, the multiple universes and, you know, parallel dimensions. Like there's all sorts of ways that we could look at this. And yes, I believe that there's other life out there.
Do you think that they have come to us?
I have no idea. If they did, then we probably would never have known if they did. Like if they have,
we've only been us for 5,000 years.
That's
right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, like it could have been like in prehistoric.
And record keeping was really poor early on.
Up to about, you know what.
But there's a bunch of weird shit like the South American Mayan, you know, I mean, they sculpted that stuff. And it looks like a dude in a fucking rocket ship to me and all sorts of weird ass shit. So it's like, I mean, it's interesting. It is interesting. And that Enochian book of the Bible has a bunch of fucking oddball shit.
Right.
Like, I don't know. But it could also be a moldy bread strip. You know what I mean? I don't know. But it seems probable. Why they would need to visit humans in particular, I don't really see why. They're not going to get anything from us they couldn't get elsewhere, but Earth is a vast and rich place. You know, so I could see there's things you can get on Earth that you can't get elsewhere, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I can kind of see that. But I don't think humans love to put humans at the center of the story.
Right.
But in this particular case, I don't think that's necessary at all, right? So they can be here, you know, mining something out of the bottom of the fucking, put that hydrogen-3 out the bottom of the ocean or any water, whatever the fuck that is, right?
Right.
So he's safe. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's totally possible they're here and don't give a fuck about it.
Yeah, I don't know that if they can get here, right, they're the advanced society. So what would we actually have to offer them, right?
Well, I don't know if
it's nothing but danger. That's nothing but danger, right? Because
exactly.
Danger really is our middle name. Honest to God.
I don't think they're coming to us for information. We're not going to be enlightening them. You know,
right.
They if they're coming, I think what's happening is they're watching us. They're doing to us what we do to, like, you know, animals in nature. We tag them. We pick them up, we tag them, we put them back, and we watch them. I think that's what they're doing. You know, there's theories of one of the things I've heard is that they're not necessarily from another galaxy, but they're from another time or another dimension. Right. I've also heard that there's more than one species of alien that's come to Earth, and some are, you know, good, some are not so good, and
which ones are the Greys or the
reptilians?
The reptilians, yeah.
Yeah.
What are the different? There's the Greys, the reptilians, the
Nordics,
the Nordics. Yeah, the Nordics are good though, I think.
Yeah, I think they're
what does a Nordic look like?
They look like Greys, but taller and have blonde hair.
Yeah, that's my people right there.
Essentially,
you can probe my anal anytime.
Essentially, those are the ones that people think that Adolf Hitler had a communication with or whatever.
Oh,
and
good old
made their Glocke.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, and I think I mentioned this on the last show, is that to get to, like, even a gray, so you've got all the ones that we imagine are sort of bipedal. Yeah. They're sort of humanistic.
The Greys are also kind of like worker bees. They're not
but we personify the aliens to sort of look like us, but just different, right? And just we were created over millions and billions of years of evolution, right? So to get to this state, awesomeness that I am, to get to this particular point would have taken quite a while, right? And taking
very
specific conditions, right? Yeah. So having them kind of look like us, or to have that, I mean, what would the conditions?
the only but I would throw at that is that famously, like when the Spanish ships first arrived in the Americas, the natives looking out at them didn't see them because there was nothing in their path to suggest that such things existed.
Right.
You
know what I mean? So there is a psychological phenomenon where you block shit out, or your mind kind of, just like when we stare at the stars, we make shapes or clouds, we make things that are part of our knowledge base, right? So if some creature popped out of the fucking ship in front of me and really looked like, Cthulhu's ugly cousin Bert, maybe my mind would turn it into something else.
Yeah.
Right? Like a tall blonde chick. Because I like tall blonde chicks.
I like the Stay Puft Man.
And I think Mike has referenced this, but there's a documentary that came out like 2004, I think, called What the Bleep Do We Know? And it's about perception.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's about perception, and the average indigenous person didn't know what a Spanish galleon was. Mm-hmm. So when they look out there, they wouldn't necessarily recognize, hell, that's a boat. I just figured it's something out there in the water. They didn't know what the fuck it was.
Yeah, could be a creature, could be
that's,
no idea it's man-made kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's no reference point for it at all. So we do that all the time. We do that and our mind fills in the blank. We do it so often that there's words for it. It's psychology and stuff, but we do it all the time. When we're reading a book, we fill in words.
Looking at clouds.
It's like, it's the human shorthand for our existence, right? We do it all the time. So I can see that being a step of our mind trying to deal with something that is too much. And or maybe these creatures have some type of psionics or something, but that's getting into the further out there.
To give us an image of what they want us to see.
They make you believe. Yeah, make you see what they want you to see,
Yeah. What was the movie with the redhead chick? Was it Amy Adams, Rival or something, where she had to communicate with those guys? And they were just strange looking creatures, right? They were like balls of energy or dust or smoke.
Or kind of squiddy. Yeah, they were kind of like had squid hands and squirted ink, but they could control it. Yeah, it was really neat. That's a Denis Villeneuve film. And they were trying, because time wasn't the same for them as it was for us.
Right.
So they were trying to steer us towards a future that would help us benefit them, which I really like, right? That's a bunch of tropes that don't often get talked about in science fiction. So I really did like that.
Yeah, pretty well done movie, I would say.
Needed more bullets, though.
Need more artillery. Does anybody subscribe to aliens being the impetus for things like the pyramids?
Oh, you mean Stargate?
Stargate, the pyramids, ancient aliens. I didn't have my hair done just quite right.
Giorgio
Tsoukalos. Yeah, I actually like watching that show. I mean, it's a lot of it is like, oh, really, you guys are fucking reaching. But there's lots of really great theories on that show. But I think that I don't put a lot of I don't believe a lot of what they say.
I just feel like the Ancient Aliens guys, a lot of they make some good points, but I think like 90
salesmen.
90% of what they're saying is you could be determined to be like just racist propaganda because Native Americans couldn't figure out mathematics.
Couldn't possibly figure out how to build that.
The Greeks can, but these guys can't.
Right. Like it's kind of like, why couldn't the Mayans figure out astronomy and
calendar,
build a whole calendar and it's like because they come up with all these things like, if you line up the pyramids, it creates like I don't remember what
it's the Orion's belt.
Yeah, the Orion's belt.
Yeah, it's the same distance apart and they're the same lineup and everything. And the buildings are all in the shape of constellations, and it's not even like one; it's like many different ones. Like there's the one in South America. Is it like Mexico?
Yeah, the
Mayan pyramids are in the same pattern as the pyramids in Giza, as far as how far away they are and and how they're lined up with the sky. They're the same. And yeah.
And is that really true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's not impossible for people to figure it out.
I don't think that's impossible at all. That's totally possible.
Well, that's because they're both in the same hemisphere,
that shows the power of religion is what that does.
I think so.
Right? Because there's no other motivating force on earth that would get a whole civilization, culture of humans motivated to build some shit that takes that long besides religion, right? Yeah. Nationalism doesn't last that long.
And if you believe in like ley lines and stuff, they're on the same ley lines.
Okay.
Yeah, or ley lines.
Yeah.
Did they? That show's been on forever. Is it like reruns, or is it? Do they just regurgitate the same?
They don't regurgitate. Well, they update on certain things, but they don't regurgitate the same thing over and over again. They're on their, I think, their 18th or 19th season, and I actually, like I said, I enjoy watching this show. I don't believe 100% of what they say. I go, that's an interesting theory. I actually kind of like that idea. Yeah, I think that's possible, but I don't necessarily go, yes, that is it. That is exactly what's happening, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Did aliens visit the ancient Egyptians? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
Ancient aliens theorists believe that, and they give you some weird fucking thing. Like my favorite episode, and it's like, oh my god, you guys are fucking reaching, is that aliens have augmented Einstein's brain. He was gone for 5 years. No one knew where the fuck he went, but according to the show anyway. And when he came back, he was super smart.
Well, he did fail math as a child, right? Isn't that the fake rumor? It's not really true.
I don't know if any of that's true, but yeah, I've heard stories like he was not, and he was dyslexic, and he had all these learning problems. But then when he came back after he disappeared for a number of years, he was super smart and
had great hair.
He came back and had the theory.
He went on tour with the Grateful Dead.
That explains a lot.
The theory of relativity and whatever else, and yeah, I like all those types of shows. I've been a fan of those types of things, like paranormal shows and whatnot. Although the one paranormal show that I watched like 5 minutes of it, this is absolute horseshit. I'm never gonna watch this again. Is was it Ghost Adventures? It basically it was like you take ghost hunters and the guys from Jersey Shore and made a new show. I kid you not. Like the only episode I watched was like, "Yo, Ghost, I bet you can't scare Joey over here." And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
I gotta go to the gym, man.
I'd watch that.
Oh my god! I was like, they're throwing off camera. Someone's throwing rocks
up your nose with the rubber hose.
Seriously though, they had like someone off camera with like laser pointers or like rocks, and they're throwing it. Did you hear that, Joey? Oh my god, I think it's a ghost.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit.
Well, that's a good point. Was John Travolta? Is he an alien?
He kind of looks like one now that he's bald.
Yeah.
He was in the Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth was a passion project for him.
That is labeled the worst science fiction movie ever, and this is including Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah.
Isn't Battlefield Earth? Isn't that basically just
Scientology?
Yeah, it's a Scientology. That's a Scientology story. Yeah.
It was one of L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard's.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is he started off as a pulp writer, and he would make up science fiction stories, and I think it was him and like two other like big name science fiction artists. They had a bet who could create a religion from one of their books.
Yeah, and make pretty darn good money at it, because if we wanted to make money, we wouldn't have started a podcast. We would have started a religion. But
that's
make your own version of Dianetics.
The whole time.
I mean,
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like because publishing books really doesn't pay well. I kind of see the impetus to switch over, but it's just kind of evil. I think is why we don't do that.
Yeah.
It's not just publishing books. It is like publishing books to sell to people to for their classes. They don't have a church in a traditional sense where people go to worship every once a week or whatever. They take courses, they take classes to better themselves, and essentially they're they're doing like hypnosis type shit.
Yeah, getting audited.
Yeah.
Well, we all know Tom Cruise is definitely an alien.
Yeah, and if you've ever seen that episode of South Park, that's legit what the church believes.
Right? Yeah,
like
it's an awesome episode.
It is the funniest thing ever, and they did a follow-up episode, kind of poking fun at Scientology a second time. Both times the credits all say John and Jane Doe for everybody
because they don't want to get
and nobody wants to get sued by the church because that church is very litigious,
and that's why Chef left, right? Because he was a Scientologist.
Isaac Hayes left the show because they made fun of his church. And then, like, a month later, he died.
Yeah, but they can make fun of the Catholics and, the Jews
everybody
and
else.
But don't you mess with the Scientologist, pal.
Because if you make fun of their church, you're a racist.
Yeah.
With that being said, lawyer up, boys.
I don't think we're big enough to be on their radar.
No, not yet. They'll go back once we get big. They're going to go back.
Besides, not all the famous people that are Scientologists are terrible actors like Tom Cruise. I mean, what's her name that plays Bart Simpson? She's a good actress.
Lisa. No. Cardelli?
Yeah, Lisa Cartwright.
Nancy Cartwright.
Nancy Cartwright. And then the redhead from the 70s show. She's also a Scientologist.
Lauren Prepon. But,
And Danny, what's his face from the 70s show?
Yeah, the rapist guy, right?
Yeah. And, well, he got...
Allegedly.
Yeah, he had the backing of the Church of Scientology's bank of lawyers. That's why he wasn't... accused.
All right. We're getting Scientologist and not alien. I know it probably one and the same, but
they really are one and the same because one of their beliefs is that like alien life is what's in our bodies. So
yeah. I prefer to think of like aliens as like the thing, right? They're going to come down and take over, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. What are some other Slither we talked about last? I was going to bring you the DVD. I'll have to bring it next week.
Yeah.
But or there's also the spores from that TV show that everyone loves right now.
That's not really alien though. That's
another life form though.
Yeah, but I think it's an earthbound life form.
It's indigenous to Earth anyway, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be alien though? I mean, if it's decided all of a sudden that it wants to take over human bodies,
could be. And it's interesting right now because they're talking on the news about that fungus that's getting in. It's killed a lot of people.
The fungus among us.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. But it is a cryptid, not a cryptid. Cyto something.
It's a shroom.
Well, it's a fungus that is found at nursing homes and hospitals a lot.
And it infects your respiratory.
And it's killed a bunch of people. We're probably okay unless you have respiratory problems.
Or you're immunosuppressed.
Yeah, exactly.
I have asthma and I'm diabetes.
Todd's going to be dead. And
it's going to to kill me.
It's going to get you first.
It's going to get me before my diabetes does.
He's going to become one of those Last of Us clickers.
Yeah, the clicker.
Okay, I've not watched it.
Chase after us. Have you played the game? You haven't played the game.
I didn't even know it was a game until the show became a thing. So
it's a fantastic game. I loved it.
I understand it's a great game, and people are like doing side by side comparisons between the game and the show. And it's like I said, I'll watch the first episode. I was like, okay, I've seen this show before, but maybe I'll give it a chance later on. But I'm not in any hurry to watch it.
The game was better than the show, in my opinion.
Well,
is it?
The source is always better than the spin-off movie or TV show that it comes from it. So
yeah, not enough zombies.
What do you think that humans have made discoveries? Because we talked about the pyramids being because of aliens, possibly. Is there any discoveries like nuclear? Like cracking the nuclear code and that kind of thing? Is that
genetics is something I would think, right?
Yeah,
it would be genes are the most. I mean, new genes the most powerful, but the microchip or genetics would be the truly most powerful, right?
Right.
I don't know, because I think humans could easily have done that, right? We're a very capable species, so I don't think we needed a helping hand with that. Seeing what we've done with stuff like this, etc., it's got a very human stamp on it, right?
Right.
Like, well, let's weaponize it. How do we weaponize it? Do we weaponize that? You know what I mean?
It is amazing, though, that humans have been around for, 10,000 years, right? And once the Industrial Revolution hit, how quickly we, jumped in our technology, right? What was that, 1840s?
Yeah.
Would be sort of the industrial
1820s.
The fastest development has been democracy.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And some of that is Industrial Revolution, but most of that is just having more minds being listened to.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then just casting aside the old caste system, which only allowed for certain voices to be heard. Right?
Well,
democracy leads to progress. That's the fact. Doesn't matter.
I was going to build a microchip, but I had to go pluck potatoes out of the ground for my master, right, or my landlord. Yeah. All right. What about what other alien stuff, guys? What else do we got on aliens?
I was going to say, as far as people are wanting to find out more about this kind of stuff, there are a few documentaries that are interesting to watch. They have the same flavor as Ancient Aliens. It's actually a lot of the same people even. There is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and then there's one. What was the other one called? Actually, they're both on. I want to say they're on Tubi right now. You can watch them for free with advertisements and stuff. But let's see, what are they called?
The unidentified aerial phenomenon or whatever they call it, the UFO thing.
Yeah.
More and more intriguing all the time because now the military, the U.S. military, is talking about it. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of air pilots have talked about it, right?
Yeah.
If not had footage, right? So there's something there. There's, it's not concrete proof that it hasn't landed. It's been televised or whatever, but something's up, right? So I just don't know what the source of those phenomenon are, but obviously it's something that's not human technology.
Right. Well, the other docs that I was talking about, I was trying to remember the name of it. It's called Unacknowledged. Is the other one, and they're both really good. And I found another one, I haven't watched it yet, but it's on YouTube, called Who Saw the Men in Black, and it's a documentary about what people believe are the real Men in Black, not the comic book or the movie based on the comic book, but what inspired all that stuff. And I like I said, I believe a lot of that stuff. I don't know how much of what is shown in these docs that I really believe, but I think there's more of a possibility that those things are a real thing than not being a real thing. So
yeah.
The segue, because we're doing top 5 cryptids tonight, or is that last week? Is that tonight?
That's tonight.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I just yes, but in one of those, if I remember, between now and then, I can't really write it down. But indigo children, right? Because those are supposedly the hybrid kids, right?
Oh yeah,
and they were all the rage in the 90s. So I don't know if that's still a phenomenon or not. But.
Is that like Bat Boy?
Is that
no, not like that.
Is that like the Kentucky Blue people?
Yeah, indigo children, because they have black eyes or whatever. I don't know. They're just creepy children. Maybe they're just creepy kids.
Oh.
Huh. But that was going to be one of the cryptids I mentioned.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to look that one.
I'm going to have to look that one. It sounds familiar, but I don't really remember much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a supposed hybrid. So I think it was just kids on meth in the Tennessee fucking foothills, but I could be wrong.
Well, there was the Kentucky Blue people. Is that what you're kind of talking about?
No, I don't know Kentucky Blue people.
Yeah, there was a very inbred valley somewhere in Kentucky where, families didn't get out. There wasn't a lot of DNA added to the population. A lot of new DNA added to the population.
Yeah, so the whole thing was it was a couple that had got together, and they both had a recessive trait that basically it pushed, the trait pushed this compound called methemoglobin up to the surface of their skin, closer to the surface of their skin, and it tinged their skin blue.
Yeah.
So they figured out, and then multiple generations later, everybody's marrying their own cousin because everybody lives in the little hollers in the hills of Kentucky and Tennessee, and didn't get around much. Not a whole lot of genetic diversity there. My whole family tree is a wreath.
So I did some Google Foo, and I found it's a book called The Indigo Children, the new kids have arrived. And it says the indigo child is a boy or girl who displays a new and unusual set of psychological attributes, revealing a pattern of behavior generally, blah, 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 blah.
Is this like Drew Barrymore in Firestarter? Is she going to light the place on fire?
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought indigo children were alien human hybrids or something, but maybe not. Drew Barrymore. We have a moment of silence for Drew Barrymore.
Absolutely.
Maybe the Indigo Children is similar to the Village of the Damned.
Yeah, Village of the Damned was all the blonde kids, right? But
they all have like supernatural powers.
Yeah. Freaky little fuckers.
Kentucky Blue Bloods, I like. That's a good name for a band, actually.
Yeah, it's not bad. You have to have a jug in the band, though. Yeah, maybe one of those washboards.
And a banjo and a fiddle.
Aren't British royalty famously that way as well?
The Blue Bloods? Yeah, I would think so.
The Blue Bloods, right? Yes, I mean, I thought that was always kind of a running joke, is that they married so many cousins that they were kind of...
Yeah.
That explains why they have jacked up teeth.
Yeah.
Well, they also, like the British royal family, they have... I can't remember what the gene is called, but if you look at their eyes, like they all have like very similar eyes, and you look back and it all traces back to
a genetic trait that they all have.
Yeah, genetic trait, and it goes all the way back to like Queen Victoria because her progenited all over Europe.
So we're talking the new King Charles and.
I don't know if Charles has it, but I know that his niece. It's Andrew's daughter has that gene. She has like the same eyes that King George, the one before Elizabeth. Before Elizabeth, yeah. If you look back and like they all have the same eyes, but like that is one of those recessive traits.
Interesting.
Well, speaking of royalty, maybe we should talk about JFK.
Yeah, good segue, Todd.
Going to Camelot.
JFK was assassinated in November of '63. He'd only been on the job for a few years. Went through quite a lot in his short presidency.
He pissed off a lot of people, I think.
Pissed off a lot of people. His brother was going after the mob. He didn't support the Bay of Pigs invasion, so he had the Cubans pissed off at him. He had the Russians pissed off at him because they made he made them look stupid with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Fidel Castro didn't like him too much.
Heard the Ku Klux Klan could have also been
the Klan, yeah. So a lot of theories on who could have killed him.
I heard it was the Teamsters that were really mad at him.
Yeah, Hoffa, because Robert was going after Hoffa and all that. I don't know if that was during that time or after, but...
So you're saying that they painted...
But it would also, out of all of those groups, right, and any one of them might have wanted to do so, who would have the access to get all of those things necessary for that day to happen? Right.
Well, the CIA, too, as Todd just mentioned, was pissed that he didn't support the ongoing efforts in South Vietnam and in Cuba to fight back communism.
So a little bit of that military-industrial complex.
Yeah. But if you look at the case itself, right? The murder, the actual shooting by a single man. This is what the Warren Commission, the commission that investigated after the assassination, said that a single guy on the 6th floor, I think it was, of the book depository in Dallas was able to get 3 shots off of a crappily made Italian Carcano rifle Within 6 seconds, 5.6 to 6 seconds, something like that, he was able to get off 3 shots, and one of them was a headshot. And it wasn't the first shot that was a headshot; it was the third shot that was actually the headshot.
And we're talking moving target from a pretty decent distance, and with a guy that did not get very good marks when he was in basic training.
Is that true though? That he didn't get good? Do we know that for sure?
That's what's been reported.
Okay,
and I believe he was discharged.
Yeah.
So have they like recreated like?
I've seen some recreation. I don't know if the Warren Commission ever recreated this, but I've seen other recreations by other private individuals. Like Jesse Ventura did a special on it, and I'm not saying that he was the best example.
I like his show. He had a show called Conspiracy Theatre where he talked about a lot of the different things.
Well, and I think it was on that show he recreated, like, he got up in a tower that was about the same height as the book depository, the 6th floor of the book depository, and kind of like same angle, trying to hit a moving target. Same rifle, everything, and he said it was incredibly difficult to pop off 3 shots.
What the Warren Commission did was have Army infantrymen that had a few different soldiers actually use that same rifle and see how quickly they could get shots off and how accurate they were. And they said, yes, it's possible to get those shots off. I didn't see the results, but according to them, it's a possible to get those 3 shots off.
Oh, of course it
on
is.
A bolt action, but to be that accurate, right? And the third shot is going to be the hardest one to make, right? Because after the first couple, people are moving, stuff's happening more, you're more sweaty, you've already launched, so the first shot,
they're coming for you.
And they're coming for you.
After the first one, you know they're coming for it.
Yeah. So, and Lee Harvey Oswald was a fascinating tale, fascinating human who joined the Army and became a radar operator, right? And was assigned to, I think, Japan for a few years at an air base there. But a lot of people suspect that he was actually an intelligence officer. Right.
Interesting.
And one of the interesting things was that they quizzed him on his knowledge of Russian, which would be weird for any service person, maybe not an intelligence person, right, to see how well they know Russian. Like your average recruit's not going to get tested to see if they know Russian, right? They might get asked, hey, do you know any foreign languages? You've been through that. You've been through that whole process. Did they question you on your foreign language ability and stuff?
I mean, I don't think that ever comes up in conversation unless you're specifically looking at going towards intelligence or becoming a linguist of some sort. Or maybe if you're like a part of like psychological operations.
Yeah.
We were talking about that last year. When I went in for my individual ready reserve, and the Army Reserve was trying to get me to come back and trying to sell me on some jobs, or like, we have an opening for psychological operations, and we'll put you through school to learn a language.
We're going to give you mass quantities of LSD and see what it does to your brain.
You were going to do some psyops, huh?
Well, that's when I did more research and found out, like, don't do that in the reserves. If you do that, do active duty, just because you usually get attached to some SF unit, and I don't want to be unprepared.
Yeah.
You know, to do things like that. But anyway, that is interesting. An interesting point, you know, that he had an understanding of Russian because he did end up going to the Soviet Union for a number of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they let him back in.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that long.
And did he marry a Russian lady or something?
Yeah, so he goes there, and I think he's only in Russia for maybe 6 months or a year. I don't think it's very long, but he goes there, he renounces his U.S. citizenship, he turns over his passport, he becomes, you know, the KGB has him for several weeks, you know, probably debriefing him. The conspiracy theorists believe that he might have given them some false intel on radar technology, which allowed him to be sort of, oh, okay, he's our new friend, right? They set him up in a decent apartment, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 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 2 with a balcony and all this other stuff. In 6 weeks, he goes to a dance hall, meets a gal, and they marry 6 weeks later and almost immediately get pregnant. Mm-hmm. So now he's got a young Russian bride and a young baby, but then he bails out of Russia and America welcomes him back with open arms, which is...
Yeah, that doesn't seem suspect, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems weird as fuck, especially at the height of the Cold War. Yeah. Right? There's no way.
Right. And while he's in Russia was when the whole U-2 plane got shot down and stuff.
Mm. Oh, they shot down one of those? How'd they shoot it down?
They think that Oswald might have given them the radar ability. So yeah. I don't know, and I think the guy, I don't remember the guy's name that was the pilot of the U-2.
Something Powers.
Yeah, he actually blamed. He thought that Oswald had given him enough information to spot the plane and be able to shoot it down out of the sky. So
I thought the reason why that plane was so good is because it was out of range of most conventional weapons.
Supposed to be, yeah.
No, I think it's, yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't intercept.
And just like with the spy balloons, it's like you can't look, you have to attenuate your, the frequencies that you're looking for, or sorry, the frequencies to look for with certain things, right? So our radar can see the Chinese weather balloons, but we weren't looking for it.
Right.
So, until you know what you're looking for, you can't ask your radar to look for it. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, maybe. But, I mean, would we sacrifice Gary Powers and U2 technology to get a double agent out of Lee Harvey Oswald? Who knows?
And then you use him to
like
be the patsy?
Triple black op agent to me, dude. He really does.
Yeah. But then just to use him as a patsy for taking the downfall of killing the president, I mean, is that worth all that effort and all that training and stuff? Maybe so.
Yes. Yeah, because it killed the Trail. And whoever decided to let the Trail die with him, of course that was worth it. Of course it was.
Yeah, so Oswald comes back. He lives for a time in the Dallas area. He moves back to New Orleans, where I think he's from, at least in that area. And at first, he becomes a anti-Castro guy, and then infiltrates a anti-Castro group, sort of a right-wing group, if you will, and then leaves them and becomes a pro-Castro guy, handing out flyers and stuff. But the thought is to create, chaos with that.
Sounds like an anarchist more than anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, either the guy was just, friggin'
easily swayed,
schizo, or easily swayed something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that happens too. Radicals jump from one thing to another.
Yeah.
I've seen it in my personal experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, you were telling me about a friend of Jupe's that, and we won't mention any names, but is kind of like that, right? He jumps from one thing to the next.
Sure does. Yeah.
He's a MAGA guy 1 minute.
And it's not necessarily like a flavor of the month type thing, but whatever's freshly radical. You know what I mean? So, he went from like a John Birch, who's like rabidly anti-communist, to this natural law thing. And then from that, kind of a trans, well, not kind of, but he went, he became a trans person. So, and I don't know if he did that. I don't know his motivation, right? Because I'm not him, but my perception of his motivation is that he just kind of feels the need to latch on to whatever the most hot, radical subject at the time. Right. Like John Birch. Who gives a fuck about the John Birch Society? But you know what I mean? Same kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Just the rabid nature of it.
But if you follow,
and now I'm going to get it. Now I'm anti-trans or something. But
we know you're not. If you follow the Lee Harvey Oswald sort of story, he's just sort of all over the place, right? And just doesn't. There's stuff about the whole thing that just doesn't sit right, that this guy acted alone, right? Because at one point he had a decent job and he quit it and then took a lesser paying job at the book depository, filling orders, where this guy could have been making a lot more money as like an electronics kind of guy or something. I forget what he was doing beforehand. The shots themselves, I don't know. We don't know, we know if his military record, as Bailey was saying earlier, is correct, that he wasn't super duper skilled with a rifle. Right. And we don't know if he'd been trained on that. And the other thing that, they point out in that Kevin Costner movie, the Oliver Stone movie, was that he was in Texas, but he ordered this rifle. He mail ordered this rifle special, right? Easily traced, where in 1963 he could have gone into any gun store in Texas, right?
Well, he used an alias to purchase the rifle.
Did he use an alias to purchase
that
one? Okay. But he could have gone into any Texas gun shop and probably picked up a really nice hunting rifle that would have maybe operated a little bit better under an assumed name, and would have walked out with it then, instead of ordering this rifle from the mail order thing, even with the alias. Right. That's probably a lot more traceable, I would think.
Yeah. It wasn't hard back then.
Yeah.
Or there was a lot less steps, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
No background checks, things like
that.
And
why would he yell that he was just a bad thing? Right? Why would he say that? If he had done it, why wouldn't he just say loud and proud? You know what I mean? It's like, death to America, or death to the Catholics, or death to whatever the fuck he was motivated by.
Right.
Right? He looked and was genuinely terrified when he said that. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. And we know that, governments, including the United States government, have all sorts of shady motherfuckers against them, right? So,
yeah.
And if there was one Lee Harvey Oswald that we know of, right? How many of them are there that we don't know of, right? Just like, I don't know if they're sleeper agents, because that makes it sound more exciting than it is, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's a tactic used by evil doers, right? So, I don't know. I don't know. That's just like with 9/11. I don't know if I'll ever really know what happened, but the Warren Commission is not telling. It's not that, right? Just like the 9/11 Commission, that's not it, right? So the Warren Commission, that ain't it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There's so many mysteries.
I don't know what did happen, but I know that didn't happen.
Like the babushka lady that they always talk about.
I don't know the babushka lady.
There was a lady with a headscarf, and she's seen like walking calmly away. I don't remember from which direction. I'd have to look that up again. But there's a woman that's caught on the Magruder film.
Yeah.
Or what is it? The Magruder film?
Zapruder.
The Zapruder. Sorry, Zapruder film, and
MacGruber.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have some Freudian slips here, but there's a lady that has a headscarf on, like an older lady, and she's just walking calmly, like nothing's happening.
Yeah,
or not that nothing's happening, but she's like walking calmly away from the scene.
Yeah,
and a lot of people speculate like we need to get a hold of this lady, figure out what she knows,
and they never did.
Never got a hold of her.
There's also the praying man that was in the doorway of the book depository, which a lot of people suggest is probably Lee Harvey Oswald, and he was right, because he said he was on the first floor. And if you look at the picture, I mean, obviously you can't drop it into a computer and enhance it, but it has a striking resemblance to Lee Harvey Oswald, and it was taken right as the shots were ringing out. So,
and the umbrella guy. There's the guy with the umbrella. I mean, there's a bunch of weird shit that happened. It was not anyway.
Right.
That area was not.
It's a weird thing.
Well, and let's talk about some of the more recent things involving JFK Sr. and Jr. Because in the last 2 or 3 years, there was a movement amongst the QAnon crowd. There's the guy actually that started this is from Federal Way.
Oh, really?
The people that all like were waiting for him to waiting for JFK Sr. to show up,
and Jr.
Well, initially it was just Sr.
Oh, I thought it was Jr. first, and then they
no, it was Sr. first, from what I remember seeing. And here's kind of an article from the Times. about it. But essentially, this guy is saying that JFK Jr. Sr. didn't die. It was all faked, even though it was on. And I think Mike is not on the call. I think the call just dropped. Either way, they thought he was coming back. So all these people showed up in Dallas, where he was killed, waiting for him to show up, just driving down the street, and then later it became about Junior and stuff. But initially, it was the funny thing that I heard was that because he didn't show up when it was told that he was going to show up, maybe he's going to be at the Rolling Stones concert tonight in Dallas. So let's go. He's going to be on stage. So a bunch of people went to the concert, in hopes to see
him pop out.
A 100-year-old man show up on the.
What is he going to do at 100 years old? I mean, what was the point of that?
Well, maybe they thought Keith Richards would,
give him some of his life force.
Yeah. Because he's
1,000 years
old. He's
old.
150 years older or whatever. But it's weird though that these people legitimately believe that JFK faked his death, even though it was on television. He got shot and killed.
You see part of his head fly off.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gets domed.
Yeah. And Jackie actually climbed out the back of the Lincoln and tried to grab the piece of his head, right? When you see Jackie kind of scramble to the back of the...
Oh, that's metal.
Was it? Oh, metal. Yeah, metal.
That is so fucking metal.
Let me grab your scalp.
You might need this.
She's like, dude, you have some red on you.
Man, oh man. Yeah, I don't understand Q. Never will.
I mean, the whole thing is pretty crazy, and I think like the QAnon people just kind of grasp at straws to try to relate to a time when, I think that John F. Kennedy is such a universally loved figure in American history and politics.
Oh, the thing that cracks me up the most about this, never mind the fact that he's like 102 years old, that when he came back, he was not only was he coming back, he wasn't dead actually, but he's also switching from Democrat to Republican, and he's backing Trump.
Yeah. That would be the logical
right. Yeah,
because he died 50-something years ago, and then when he comes back, he's going to switch sides. I don't see that happen.
I mean, what's he been doing for 50 years? Did they put his brain into a monkey for a while, and he's been down there?
He's been sitting in the back to tank.
He's right next to Walt Disney.
Yeah, he's in the thing. And that Elvis show I was talking about earlier, Howard Hughes has Disney's head in a cryogenic little tank, which is funny.
I need to watch that show now. That's one of the... They make fun of that on Futurama, too.
Yeah, and I think they actually have Kurt Russell guest star in that episode for a voice. So it's pretty funny. He gets blamed for killing Walt Disney. So... anyway, yeah, I mean, JFK, I think there's so many could be coincidences or just unexplained stuff that it keeps this conspiracy theory alive, right? And I got to think that there's probably more to it. Of all the conspiracies out there, and there's a lot of them, I really truly believe that there's something more to it than just Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Whether that's CIA or
mob connections,
Jack Ruby.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like somebody put him up to it. There was also the thought that Oswald went after General Edwin. Is it just Edwin?
General Edwin.
Something like that.
Edwin Walker.
Edwin Walker.
Yeah,
and he took a pot shot into his kitchen window or something, right?
Yeah, so he was like a stout anti-communist, anti-integrationist, like
the general.
Yeah, the general, and supposedly Lee Harvey Oswald had taken a shot from like 100 feet into his window.
Is practice, or why would he do that? Just because he's, like we talked about earlier, he's schizophrenic and just vacillates between.
Let's be real; it's alleged at this point.
Yeah,
like who knows who actually shot through the guy's window?
Right.
Welcome back, Mike.
Thank you.
The mayor back on with us?
Yeah, while we're recording, I usually have my phone like put on Do Not Disturb, so I didn't see he called back.
Good on you. Welcome back, Iowa.
Did you guys solve the mystery while I was gone?
No, we just been, scratching the tip, scratching the surface,
itching the tip,
itching the tip. I guess that's a euphemism for something.
They have a cream for that, Charles.
Yes, they do. I use it quite a bit. And at JFK, we were just talking about how there's so many coincidences and unexplained things and people involved and stuff that happened years later. The whole Garrison investigation that happened in the mid to late 60s, all that stuff, that there's got to be more to it than just some schizophrenic Lee Harvey Oswald single shooter theory, right?
I still think that the second gunman was JFK on the grassy knoll.
From another
shooting himself
period.
from another time.
From another timeline,
yeah. He didn't want to get in trouble for Maryland with Jackie or what. He was like, I'm going to take myself out.
If they found out about that while he was still alive, he would have had a whole different level of problems, I think.
Yeah.
But
but man, if I'm going to get busted for stepping out on my old lady, it had better be with Marilyn Monroe, right? It's like, because you're kind of like, well, honey, I mean, it's Marilyn Monroe.
I mean, come on.
I mean, if you're going to step out, you gotta step out on someone who's exceedingly hot, and it should be your hall pass, not some skanky like porn star,
Yeah. Yes, Jackie gives him the hall pass. She's like, I'm going to take Cary Grant, you take Marilyn Monroe.
Well,
right.
Well, John Kennedy was a certified sex addict.
Was he?
He would say, if I don't have sex at least 3 times a day, I get a migraine.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think that's just what guys tell their wives, as long as they can get away with saying that.
That sounds like something made up for sure.
I'm going to try that line later, but
and a sperm retention disorder, honey. It's
I mean, that is definitely they say that sex is the best way to. And if you're like really tense and you need to relax, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. But just ask Monica Lewinsky, right? I don't know. Maybe Jackie O had something to do with this, right? I mean, she married up. I think
if the Kennedys were on an episode of Cheaters, then we would have found out exactly what happened.
Yeah, hard to say. What's your favorite theory, Todd? Who did it?
I think that it's. I think my favorite theory is it's an inside job, that somebody within the government's like, fuck this guy, he's screwing up our country.
So it's like CIA.
We need to get rid of him so we can get somebody else in office.
Yeah.
So,
what about you, Bailey? What's your best theory? What's your thought?
I'm going to speculate that it was the military-industrial complex using its assets to take him out to install Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I just said.
Yeah. To
well, it did escalate Vietnam, right?
Yeah, to escalate Vietnam and to have a more aggressive foreign policy.
Yeah. I'm going with CIA industrial complex using the mob to take him out, and that the mob were probably the second, third shooters.
Honestly, I think what it was is everybody going, this guy is not. I think it's a combination of all of that. I think everybody's like, well, he's not doing what we want him to do. The industrial complex, the CIA, and everybody's like, we need to curtail this dude. So who are we going to get to do this? And they probably contracted a bunch of different people to do it. And the one thing that I will say is, like, a lot of people think that the Soviets had something to do with it. I don't subscribe to that because I've never heard that.
Because Khrushchev and a lot of people in the Soviet apparatus were completely blindsided by his assassination.
Yeah, and I don't think it was Fidel either. I don't think he had the wherewithal to do it. I think it had
resources.
I think it would have had to come from inside.
And in the 60s, that's pretty much when all the big assassinations happened, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
MLK, RFK, JFK. Yeah.
Malcolm X too, right?
Malcolm X, yeah, for sure. Mike, what about you, buddy? What are your thoughts? Who did it? Who?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much on the rogue element, because I need to remind myself, and I know this is a little Pollyanna, but when people behave this way, they are no longer agents of these United States, right? They're rogue elements acting outside not only the law and the Constitution, but the humanity that is derived from these United States. But yeah, I say CIA, military industrial complex, and don't forget Hoover, because nobody was doing jack dick within the United States without Hoover's knowledge.
That's true.
Hoover knew everything.
Yeah.
So we have to toss him in there, but yeah, I think all of the above. I really do. It was a big operation. It had to be. And or sometimes, if the Gordian knot has told us, the simplest solution, the most direct solution is often the truth. I think it was a tiger. A tiger got him.
It's not a Gordian knot. That's called Occam's razor.
Occam's razor.
Oh, is it Occam's razor? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. But so I fucked up a punchline because I got that wrong? Come on.
We understood what you were saying.
That whole build-up was for the tiger thing. Not the tiger thing.
I like it.
Maybe it was Schrodinger's cat, right? I mean, is it dead? Or
I mean, is he a murderer or not a murderer? Murderer or not a murderer?
Or is it hanging on Epstein's island?
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion for another day.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely talk, about everybody who showed up on that island. I mean, honestly, big names.
Big names. Well, we would like you folks, if you're watching, to comment, obviously, in the comment section
below, man,
and tell us, who the hell killed JFK, or maybe he's still alive. Let us know. Maybe Lee Harvey Oswald didn't really get assassinated himself by Jack Ruby.
And if you're listening,
maybe they smuggled him out of the country.
If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, come to our Facebook page, facebook.com/ourtownpod, and you can comment on one of our more recent posts about what you think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna end the part 2 here, but then we're gonna jump into our members only section for our top 5 cryptid creatures.
Yes,
which you can get in our members only. So go to our-townpodcast.com and head to the members only section. Subscribe. It's only $3 a month, and it gets you plenty of extra stuff.
$35 a year, folks.
That's $30 a year.
Or it's 30. I thought it was 35.
A year. Yeah,
$30 a year. Shit.
Yeah. So we've got blogs there. We've got fun dirt videos. We've got
I just posted some new ones today.
News of the world, which I do weekly. So check it out and give us lots of suggestions. So like, subscribe, talk about podcast, hit the little bell button, and I don't know what else, man. From there.
If you listen on Spotify, you can interact with the podcast that way too. There's a little Q&A thing, or we ask a question in every episode. You can respond to that as well.
Nice.
So
nice. We love hearing from you. So make it happen. And on that note, are we good, Todd?
I think we're good.
We're out.
Mike, we'll see you in a few.
Oh yeah. All right.
Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you think this episode is worth $1 or $5, the boys would love to have it. Please go to ourtownpod.store for merch or to donate now. For less than a cup of coffee, you can also join the website in the member-only area for exclusive bonus content, blogs, and more. It's just $3 a month or $30 a year. Thank you for listening to this production of Our Town Podcast Extraordinaire.